go to Emanuel Ringelblum now, if you like.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Another hugely inspirational figure that I, sometimes I think about him, especially now because we're speaking in Elul. I think about role models in my own life and how far am I away from these figures. And Emanuel Ringelblum is one of those individuals. He was a great historian, not an overtly religious man, but a great Polish historian who found himself trapped in the Warsaw Ghetto with the Nazi occupation. And he made the momentous decision, which has really changed the world, certainly of Jewish scholarship, maybe the Jewish world as a whole, that he recognized early on in the war that this was a novum, a tremendum. It was something completely new and awesome in the original sense of the word, that was happening to the Jews of Warsaw. And he considered it his personal mission to record everything that happened in the ghetto for future generations. So he assembled a group of amateur historians, whom he called Sammlers, collectors, who had some expertise sometimes in particular areas of Jewish life. And he sent them out. It was a secret society. They were constantly afraid of being discovered by the Nazis. And so they went under the code name Oneg Shabbat. They had cells that people didn't know each other and things like that, and the secret code words and things like that. And he had them go out and record everything, like what was going on with education in the ghetto. We had actually medical schools operating in the Warsaw Ghetto. What was going on with culture? We had lending libraries, we had theater and so on. What was going on with the demographic status, the tremendous starvation that was happening, the influx of refugees in the ghetto. Did very detailed statistical analysis based on, sometimes quite uneven data, but nevertheless really put a tremendous professional effort into bringing this all together. And this particular archive called Oneg Shabbat featured Rabbi Shimon Huberband, which I think you were hoping we'd speak about him shortly.
Absolutely, right? Yes, that's fine.
He was actually
about him now.
He was actually a cousin. I'm very excited about this material. It's so inspirational to me. Rabbi Huberband was actually a cousin to the Piaseczna Rebbe, and his task was give us details on what religious Jews are doing in the occupation. How is religious life working? And he went out there and recorded a phenomenal amount of material, which was later published under the title Kiddush Hashem in English by Yeshiva University Press. It's an abridgment, but it's a remarkable collection of documents that attest to the nature of religious life under this incredible circumstances. This organization that Raoul Hilberg created was called Oneg Shabbat, and towards the end of 1942, it became very clear that the ghetto was going to be completely destroyed. The massive deportations had already happened, and there were only a few tens of thousands of Jews left behind, primarily for slave labor. And so Hilberg began to, I'm sorry, I keep on saying Raoul Hilberg. I'm confusing.
Emanuel Ringelblum.
Emanuel Ringelblum, thank you. Raoul Hilberg, also a great scholar of the Holocaust,
absolutely.
But my brain was kind of all jammed up because I had so many exciting things to tell you that Emanuel Ringelblum realized that the Warsaw Ghetto was going to be destroyed, and in fact it was. The Great Uprising would occur in April of 1943, and so what he did was he said, okay, Sammlers, it's time for us now to actually inter our findings into the ground in Warsaw for later generations. And so his remarkable band of amateur historians often composed their last wills and testaments, and then they put all of the documents that they had assembled or written into these containers, and they buried them in 3 caches throughout the city of Warsaw. Because they were worried about being discovered, they didn't tell each other where the other caches were. The first cache was unearthed in 1946. There was one survivor from that particular cell who knew exactly where it was buried, and they went and dug it up. Unfortunately, they used these tin metal boxes, and water had penetrated the seals, and so the documents were virtually illegible and most of it was lost. The other cache was discovered. There were no survivors who remembered where the other two were. The second cache was discovered in December 1950 when a Polish construction worker was excavating the former ghetto to build new construction, and he came across 2 milk containers. If you remember back in the day, maybe you do, when they used to deliver milk, and the milkman, who may even have been on a wagon with wheels, I don't remember quite back that far, probably you not, but they had these massive tin containers about this big, let's see my hands here, a little bigger than that they would fill with milk, and then they would fill the individual bottles. So these were really quite well sealed. And when they dug up these 2 milk containers, they found it filled with all these Hebrew manuscripts. They went to the Jewish Historical Association in Warsaw Society, and that's where the Piaseczny Rebbe's writings were included. The third cache, unfortunately, remains undiscovered to this day. Somewhere in Warsaw, there is another huge window into the world of the strange world of the Nazi-occupied Warsaw, but we're still waiting for someone to come across it. Wow. Well, I should also mention that Ringelblum and his family and Huberband and his family were all martyred in the Holocaust, and as was the Rebbe himself.